Hello and welcome everyone to the Hope in the Real World 10 Under 10 recipient panel for 2020. I don't think we could be any more 2020 than by doing this virtually from all around the country. So we are so excited to have you joining us today. I don't want to take up much time because we have some fantastic panelists joining us, and I want you to be able to hear from them. So I do want to mention that the 10 Under 10 Awards is celebrating some emerging leaders, people that are living into their calling and just impacting the local and global community in really great ways. And those are people that have graduated from Hope within the past 10 years. So these are young alumni, people that have very recently been on campus and very recently been experiencing the life of a current Hope student. I do want to give you a little bit of a view into those people, what they look like in their professional lives. Some of them aren't able to join us today, but we do have 8 of them starting and hopefully one of them joining in a little later. But without further ado, I want to welcome our moderator, Chad Carlson. You may know Chad from lots of different aspects around campus. He's the Director of General Education and works as a professor in the kinesiology department, and he will be leading our discussion today. So thank you so much, Chad, for being here.
Thank you, Kate. It's a great honor and privilege to be able to moderate the session today. We're so excited for this Hope College 10 Under 10 Alumni Award recipient panel. I'd like to ask at this point that all of the recipients unmute their camera so we can see you for this conversation. As they're doing that, I just want to tell you this is such a distinguished group. We're so excited to be able to have all of them with us virtually today. We're excited to be able to hear from them. So without anything further, I'd like to ask each of the recipients to share a little bit about themselves. I'm going to ask that you introduce yourself by name, your graduation year from Hope College, your major, and importantly, what you do now. So I'll call you, I'll ask for your response, and then we'll get into some questions. Luis, why don't you start us off?
All right, thank you, Chad. I'm excited to be here back. I wish we were on campus, but this will do, right? So my name, again, is Luis Silva. I graduated from Hope in 2010 with a management and economics degree. And currently I am a human resources business partner for Herman Miller, actually a brand of Herman Miller down in Atlanta. So calling you all from Atlanta, Georgia right now.
Great, thanks, Luis. Excited to have you here. Jordan, why don't you go next?
Yeah, my name is Jordan Fuller. I graduated in 2010, political science and business management. I live in Denver, and I work for the Humane Hope United Foundation, which is a nonprofit that tries to end poverty in Honduras.
That's great. Thank you, Jordan. Appreciate it. Annalise, how about you?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Annalise Klein. A lot of you know me as Cece. I graduated in 2014, a double major in chemistry and English. I've been a science teacher for the last 6 years, but this year I'm now self-employed. So I'm an education consultant. I work with a tribal district up in Alaska. I work with a re-engagement site in Washington, developing culturally relevant and project-based education opportunities in STEM.
So excited to have you with us today. Thanks. Amy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Weibly. I graduated in 2010. Majored in communications, and I work right now with United Way of Franklin County in Pennsylvania, and I'm the Communications and Community Impact Director there. I also have my own home business where I do design and marketing consulting.
Outstanding. Thanks, Amy. So glad to have you with us today. Megan.
Hi, everyone. I am Megan Elinsky. I graduated back in 2013. I majored in chemistry, and I just moved back to the Holland area this fall. I'm starting out this year as an assistant professor in chemistry at Hope, so I am teaching general chemistry and building my research group here.
Great. Thanks a lot, Megan. Appreciate it. Eric. Bad timing. Sorry, Eric.
No problem. Hi, everyone. I'm Eric Vachon. I graduated in 2014 as a nursing major. And currently I'm a cancer research fellow at Indiana University in Indianapolis.
Great, thanks so much, Eric. Charlene.
Hi, I'm Charlene DeWitt. I graduated in 2015 with a double major in psychology and sociology with criminal justice. And I currently work for Legal Services of Northern California, which is a nonprofit legal aid law firm. We have a mission of ending poverty.
That's terrific. Thanks, Charlene. Appreciate it. Peter.
Yeah, hello. Peter Stopker, graduated in 2010 with an education degree, and I'm currently entering my third year as an assistant professor of health and physical education at the University of West Georgia.
Outstanding. Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it. We also may be joined by Stephanie Bogema on this panel a little bit later. Hey, before we get into some questions, I'd like to let the audience know that we will have a Q&A time at the end. So if you see an icon down the bottom that says Q&A, we'd love for you to put questions into that portal that we can ask later on to the award recipients. Each award recipient, as part of the process for them receiving this award, submitted a few paragraphs of reflection on their time at Hope College. And I'd like to begin by asking some of them to share a little bit about their experiences at Hope College, specifically the liberal arts. And I wonder if, Luis, we can start with you to share a little bit about the Hope College liberal arts experience you had and what impact that's had on your life today.
Sure. Thanks, Chad. When I think back, I guess you don't know what you don't know, right? I never really thought, I think back to all of the classes that we all had to take, right? The elective classes, those classes that sometimes seemed harder than the classes we were really there for, that we were there to study for. And when I think about what liberal arts has done in my career, as I have progressed, it really comes down to asking the right questions. It's clear, I think especially in my world, that I'll never know the answers to everything, but the fact that I know what questions to ask or where to find answers, where to get resources, where to call for help, I think it's really important. And it certainly has served me well as I continue to progress in my career and really everything outside of work too, right? So I think that curiosity that Hope enabled me to seek, and becoming a true critical and analytical thinker is something that I look back and, I kind of wish I would have taken more of those weird classes that we have to take to graduate, because, who knows what other passions they might have brought or what other skill sets they could have brought me. So that's what I would say really quick, few sentences that Hope has given me. So I'm very appreciative of that.
As a director of general education, that's music to my ears. I appreciate it. Cece, can you share a little bit too?
Yeah, definitely. So I love this question because I looked for schools that only were in liberal arts. I think Hope was able to take my lifelong just love of learning and then help me make it marketable. So I came in freshman year knowing I wanted to study chemistry and English. And normally when people hear that was my major, people go like, oh, that's weird. Like, that's interesting. And that's not the response I got from professors. Professors like encouraged and cultivated that. I was able to do independent research projects with Dr. Anderson in chemistry, Dr. Hemingway in English, who let me blend those two together and really discover what made those English and chemistry bridge. And so, when I was in high school, my dad always said, don't really focus on what specific job you want, figure out your specific interests and passions, find a way to become really, really good at that unique blend. And I think Hope really did that for me and set me up to be able to take a whole bunch of different classes in different departments.
You've had a lot of wise people speak into your life, clearly. Thanks for sharing. Charlene, being in the legal world and yet doing work that seems to embody the type of empathy that we want to see from students in the liberal arts, can you speak to how a Hope liberal arts education has helped you come into these roles?
Absolutely. So I think you said it really well. I had no idea I wanted to be a lawyer when I started at Hope. I was certain that I wanted to be a therapist. But because I got a sociology with criminal justice emphasis, I went to Philadelphia for a semester and had a professor through that program who was a public defender. And just through conversations with her, I figured out like, oh, I didn't miss the train. I can still go to law school if that's what I want to do. And then through law school, I still had that foundation from Hope of having a mission, having a purpose, finding a way to bring that into my career, which is how I ended up at the job that I'm at now, which sometimes feels a little bit like part social work, part law, which is the exact blend that I wanted. And I never would have been able to go through that trial and error of figuring out exactly the career that I wanted if it hadn't been from the foundation I got at Hope.
We're so happy to hear that. Jordan, you've been in the legal field yourself and transitioned towards something that seemed to pull at your heart a little bit more. Can you speak to the way in which Hope Education influenced some of your decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a liberal arts degree is really important because it teaches you how to communicate and collaborate on all sorts of different topics. And I think Luis had a great point about remaining curious. And I think Hope cultivates that by, studying so many different topics. And so I think, yeah, communication and collaboration are huge that you learn at Hope and taking that into the real world.
You guys have done so many wonderful things, and you spoke highly of your Hope College experience. I wonder if we can hear a little bit about maybe the reality of some of your experiences that maybe weren't fully positive. Or as you look back on your Hope College experience, I wonder if you can think about maybe some regrets you had, some things that you wish you had done that you hadn't done, knowing full well that we have a lot of students in the audience today. I wonder if Amy and Eric, if the two of you in that order, can speak to some things that maybe you wish you had done differently while you were at Hope College.
Sure. Thanks, Chad, for that question. I'm thinking about this. It sounds a little cliche, but I really don't have any regrets about my experience at Hope, because even through the times I went through my first year, my freshman year, and I didn't know what major to choose. And so even through that journey of not knowing what to pursue through my career, of trying to find my calling, it still led me, and I learned so much through that journey. So I wouldn't say I had any regrets, because I think that the main thing is through your Hope experience is to take it all in, the good and the bad, and to learn from it and be able to move forward and take what you learn and just build upon it. And so that's what I feel like my Hope College experience was. And it was through my general education courses. I had to take Communications 101, and that's exactly where I had the feeling that I found my calling. And that was at the end of my freshman year. So sophomore year, I was able to walk in the doors and declare my major and really move forward.
Yeah, similar to Amy, I know it sounds cliche, but I can't really say that I have many regrets. I played baseball as well as being a nursing major, which both of those are extremely time intensive. And thankfully going to a Division III school, and especially with Hope, I was able to do both, where Division I, Division II, you really wouldn't be able to play a sport and have a time intensive major like nursing. So maybe I really didn't have the time afforded to experience some of the other things that Hope offered in terms of certain groups and clubs and other activities. But I mean, it's brought me to where I am now, so I can't say that I regret the path that I chose with being a nursing major and playing baseball and potentially missing out on those things, because it's brought me to a career and a life now that I'm extremely happy with, and thankful that Hope was a major influence on that.
Well, and we're thankful that you guys are major influences at Hope as well, so we appreciate that. Megan and Peter, you guys are both in higher education yourselves right now, and I wonder if you can share a little bit of advice that you would give, knowing what you know now, and maybe these are things that you share with your students now, but some things that you would give as advice to current Hope College students.
Yeah, it's pretty broad. Yeah, just general advice to current students. Probably, I think the biggest thing that comes to mind right away is if you ever find yourself kind of like in like a mid-semester frenzy, and you never feel like you have enough time either for that day or that week or that semester. I think one of the greatest things I've learned over time is to just have patience. And I know it can seem impossible to believe people in your life when they tell you that things will be okay, but they really will be. You'll get through the next homework assignment, you'll get through the next week, you'll get through the semester, and it will all be great. You're just on this winding path. So it's pretty, it's pretty general advice, but things, it's hard to listen to people say it'll be okay, but things will be okay.
To kind of piggyback off, I would say milk everything you can out of your education. I tell my students all the time, ask questions, be critical thinkers, like don't apologize. If you have a question, like that's my job. So go to your faculty, find a mentor, latch on to somebody, keep asking, go to your whole department, get to the bottom of it. I mean, you are a student first, and that's the faculty's job to provide the most, maximize your educational experience. So I always tell my students, like, stop apologizing, come in, let's set times to meet, and don't be afraid to meet. I had first year seminar, which I'm sure everyone did. That was one of the best experiences I ever had because I was forced to meet with David James, I think weekly. I don't know if he's on this or not, but it made me realize to get myself focused and provide that academic structure and support that I needed.
I imagine the two of you are influencing a lot of students' lives right now as it is. Hey, I want you to think back about your general education courses, and some of you have alluded to this already, but I want to start with Jordan. Jordan, is there maybe one or two general education courses that you took that really stand out in your mind as having an impact in your life?
Yeah, I think communication, the one I brought about before, I think that was huge. In my job, I'm trying to end poverty, and with the team and different communities in Honduras, and poverty is extremely complex and is so multifunctional. And so to know how to communicate on all those different subjects, know how to ask the right questions, when to go deeper, and how to give clear feedback across the different languages, extremely important. And so I think communications was huge at Hope College for me.
And Charlene, how about you? I know you've talked a little bit about some independent studies you've done with some pretty amazing professors on campus, but any particular gen ed courses that stand out for you?
I think the one that comes to mind the most is my senior seminar class that I took with the late Professor Shaughnessy, which was really an amazing experience, especially because there were people from all different disciplines that you meet in your first year seminar and your senior seminar classes. So you get to kind of take advantage of their perspectives, especially in senior seminar when you get to see like where people's trajectories are heading, like how they've come to find their own at Hope and where they think that that's going to take them. That class was specifically on memory and memoirs and kind of writing your life story. And especially at that stage, you're kind of deciding what you want to get out of your life. You're not at the end of it, you're really at the beginning, and kind of setting some goals for yourself and being intentional about who you want to be, how you want to live your life. And that was very impactful for me.
That class has impacted a lot of Hope students over the years. I'm glad you mentioned that one. Amy, you talked a little bit about a comm class. What about other general education courses that have had an impact on your life?
Yeah, like I said, Communications 101 kind of led me into that major. I actually had a double minors as well in English and in studio art. And those all sprang from having those gen ed courses my freshman year and knowing that whatever I pursue in a career, I wanted it to be fulfilled from it. And art and English were both passions of mine, literature. And so I wanted to incorporate that in my education so that I would enjoy going to classes throughout those 4 years. So being able to have education courses, everything from the evolution of dinosaurs that I took for my science credits to taking those, the cultural courses or the first year seminar, all of that provided well-rounded experience so I could have a little bit of everything to know what I really loved and to know what I wanted to dive deeper into.
Thanks for sharing that. That's certainly the purpose, and we couldn't have stated it any better. We thank you for that. I want to turn to co-curricular experiences. All students are engaged in something or another outside of their classes on campus. Some are more formal experiences than others. But I wonder if a few of you can speak to some of your experiences here. I want to start with Eric to begin. Eric, you alluded to baseball as an experience for you. Can you speak to that and maybe any other co-curricular experiences you had as formative in your life?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't really have a whole lot of time outside of baseball and nursing. I'm sure there's other things I was involved in, but I mean, baseball in particular afforded me the opportunity to play baseball at the next level. Going to Hope was an extremely important thing to me, and I've been thankful for the coaches and my teammates and how it's kind of formed where I'm at in my life now. And I still have best friends that I've made on that team and still playing fantasy football and baseball leagues with those guys, talk regularly with them. But it also maybe taught me certain life skills quicker than maybe other students, particularly time management and how to organize and do different things because we were traveling so often, or I'd practiced, try to mix with those with nursing clinicals. So as time intensive, maybe as difficult it was juggling those two things, I think over the long term, it really, I had to adapt a bit quicker maybe than some other students because in order to be successful at both, I needed to make those adjustments in my life. And I'm thankful that I stuck with both of them and learned those skills through baseball and obviously bridge nursing into a practicing career and then now into a research career through nursing. So yeah, I'm extremely thankful for what my coaches and my professors allowed me to do to juggle both. And I wouldn't trade that experience for anything.
You were clearly a busy person, right? Those two things took up a lot of time, I'm sure. Megan, can you speak into this question as well? Some co-curricular engagement and how that may have formed you?
Yeah, so I joined Kennel Club and then also Engineers Without Borders. So even though I was a chemist, I still was involved with that club. And so those in particular I liked because they got me to meet more people. Like a lot of my research currently is interdisciplinary. And so, you know, co-curriculars, talking to people in different departments, some of the things that Jordan have said has really resonated with me about building those communication skills. And so that was really important. But also I was on the sailing team. So more of like a lighthearted, I guess, co-curricular, but I think that was still a really integral part of Hope just because it gives you the chance to try new challenges, take different experiences. And so that one for me was a totally new skill that I learned. It was challenging, it was exhilarating. And so it was just a really, you know, take advantage of the things Hope has to offer, even if you're just diving in as a total novice. It's a great community. You know, you'll be welcomed with open arms.
I love the breadth of those experiences. It sounds like a general co-curriculum education. That's great. Thanks, Megan. So this next question is one that I think a lot of students in the audience would be really interested in knowing the answer to. The question is, how did you get to where you are in your career right now? You've all had different journeys. Some have been more linear than others, but I'm curious how you've gotten to where you are right now. I wonder if, Luis, if you'll start us off with this one.
Sure, thanks, Chad. You know, when I think back to everything, and I'm going to go way back even to senior year in high school, right? I think that for students listening in, I would recommend that you really allow yourselves to be mentored. There's always someone there who wants to seek you out and wants to challenge your way of thinking, and just wants you to try different things. And I learned to do that, I think, my senior year. I was always pretty reserved, I think, up until then. And then I met Carol Fritz, who's actually on this, so I don't feel bad calling her out. And her and Barb Miller, I mean, you know, they were the ones who introduced me to Hope, and they were the ones who kept in touch with me throughout Hope and said, try this, try that. So I think having that as an ability to kind of let people in will do you well, because I continued to do that in my career at Hope and then in my career at Herman Miller. And if I hadn't learned to do that, I definitely would not be living in Atlanta right now, right? It's always been someone that said, hey, you know what, I see potential in you, or I think highly of you, or you should go try this, or forget what you're doing right now and do that. If you open yourself up a little bit, you'd be surprised to, you know, where that road's going to take you. So I recommend that you allow yourself to be mentored as you yourself mentor others.
You're a great example of someone who's allowed himself to be mentored and now as a mentor yourself. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Cece, I wonder if you can speak into this one as well about your journey. How did you get to where you are today?
not directly is the short answer to that one. And I'm going to like loop back some of the other questions too in this answer, because you know, I think teaching, so I started with Teach for America, and the reason I applied to TFA was first because I was an organic chemistry TA for 2 years. So working with Professor Smith, who I so respect and look up to, and just all the work she does managing the organic chemistry labs, I found what I really, really loved. It's a 5-hour lab, right? So you're there for like half of that time with students. And just the conversations that I could have with students who are only like a year or two behind, you know, where I was. But, you know, for some students, the like material's not clicking. They're not going to pass this class. They've dreamed of, you know, medical school or whatever those plans are. And there's a lot of identity work and self-work that we got to kind of do as a TA and as a student that was more informal, right? And so that combined with a May term that I did with Professor Hooverworth going to Pine Ridge Reservation, I started seeing schools as this place where I could really get to know a community and work alongside people. And so I applied to TFA. I wanted to go back to Pine Ridge. They placed me in Hawaii, which is where my mom's side of the family is from. I ended up teaching one of my third cousins who I didn't even know existed. I was there for 3 years, and that's when I started thinking about science education in terms of other non-Western cultures, and how do we elevate people's voice and self-worth and understanding of their community's identity in science and technology, maybe a different way of knowing that. So that has kind of taken me to California, where I continued teaching, where I taught chemistry at a public school. And then I was awarded a Fulbright last fall to go to Uganda and work with a rural school there just to help them boost STEM education. And so got to work with some amazing colleagues there. We developed some agriculture projects. Kids were able to like research and actually implement change in their community. And that was really empowering for them. And I loved working on a larger scale beyond my own classroom. And so that has led to connections with and a lot of networking and cold emails to people who are doing interesting work to kind of develop my own practice and work alongside teachers in different parts of the nation.
You've taken a fairly mainstream profession and attacked it with a really cool and curious lens. So we really appreciate the work that you've done, and thanks for sharing about that. Jordan, I know that your experiences haven't been linear as well professionally. Can you share a little bit about your journey to get to where you are today?
Yeah, I think it's really important to kind of always ask yourself, you know, I think we have similar callings, people that go to Hope, because most of us are believe in Jesus. And so our calling is to love God and love others. But I think how we live that out is different. And so I think it's important to ask yourself, how should I be living this out? Kind of on a consistent basis. And that's not something that I thought was going to happen at Hope. But now that, you know, I'm 10 years removed, now that I know that we're always asking ourselves that question, hey, what's next? What's next? What does God have in store for me next? And so, you know, my journey kind of definitely not linear either, you know, was law school, MBA, then working for a bank, and then finally now at the Humane Hope United Foundation. But I would say keep asking the question, keep pursuing what you're good at, but then also what you love. And so my first year before I got to Hope, I started going to Honduras, and I knew that's what I loved, but it's just, you know, the intersection of timing for when the how got to be lived out.
I appreciate you continually asking that question. What a good one it is to ask, and a good reminder to all the students and all of us in the audience here. What a great question to ask. Amy, I want you to talk a little bit about your journey from COM 101 to where you are today. How'd you get there?
Yeah, so when I was getting ready to graduate college, I wanted to get some more experiences in the marketing and advertising field to know exactly where I wanted to go, because it is communications, it's so broad. You can go so many different ways. I was drawn to advertising and marketing, but still within that, what did I want to do? And so I landed an internship that took me to Washington, D.C. to work for a nonprofit arts organization. And that's really when I realized that the nonprofit world was where I wanted to serve, because it exactly aligned with my calling and wanting to make sure that while I am marketing and promoting all of these things, that it lines up with my morals and my ethics and how I want to live in this world and how I want to impact the community to be better. And I can do that by working through nonprofits. And so I thought originally it'd be arts organizations, because that's where I have a lot of my passions, my personal passions as well. But it ultimately led me actually more to business nonprofit. So I landed in a business membership association where I worked for a number of years on economic development and business development within the nonprofit worlds, and how that the economics positively impacts community. And to now where I'm with United Way, which is very much a human services supportive organization where we focus on improving the health, financial stability, and education for everybody in our community here locally, but then through the connection of United Ways, across the world. And so I just think my advice would be to anybody who's, trying to seek out their calling. It's just like everybody's said before me, you kind of have to take it step by step and day by day, and you have to react to what's put in front of you and the signs that are coming at you, and what to do next to pursue your calling and really live that out. 10 years ago, if you would have asked me where I'd be now, I would not have guessed in South Central Pennsylvania, doing the work that I do. And that's exactly what it means to live your calling, is it's following the calling to wherever it takes you as you are, where you're at in your life.
In case you're wondering, the Boerchter Center for Career and Calling did not pay these recipients to say what they're saying. This is actually them living out what we're being told, to connect your interests and your strengths with what the world needs. I really appreciate that, Amy. Peter, I want to transition to you here for the same question. You've done some coaching and then went into a PhD in a similar field. How did that work out?
Yeah, so I right after graduating, I offered to teach or coach at a small school in Ohio, and I decided to kind of pursue that. And then I ended up coaching at Calvin. I don't know if I can say that out loud, but I worked for Calvin for like a month, actually for 2 years. But so I did that for a little bit. And then when I realized if I want to advance in like the health and kinesiology type field, I would need a master's degree. And then someone decided that I was good enough for them to pay for me to do teaching and research, which was awesome. And I really attribute that to Hope, to kind of that Hope education propelled for that. And then Luis has talked about mentors. I think a lot of us have. Someone at Western Michigan, where I got my master's, said, "Have you ever thought of it a doctorate?" And I was like, I don't even know what that is at the time. I just want to coach baseball. And then ended up getting some funding as well, too, to pursue my doctorate as well. So, those experiences that you don't really know. I think a lot of us, we didn't know we would fall into this right away, but those mentors in our life that said, "Hey, have you thought about this?" I was like, I didn't know I had that capability in me, to pursue that or go after that or take that risk. And it's really cool to kind of reflect back and hearing everyone talk about the different experiences about that 1 or 2 or 3 people that just said, "You tried this out." So a lot of hard work. I don't advise everyone getting a doctorate because it's a long, arduous process, but it's a really rewarding one as well too. If you can push through. I'm always happy to talk to others about how the PhD process as well. So
definitely is. Yeah. Thanks for saying that, Peter. Thanks for sharing. So, Charlene, I'm wondering if you can maybe share a little bit about why Hope College for you. What was it about Hope? And in your answer, if you want to continue on to talk about your journey to where you are now, that'd be great too. But maybe start out with why Hope College for you?
Sure. So it's funny, I don't know exactly how Hope came on my radar. I had a soccer coach in high school that had gone to Hope, but really I think it was more that my mom, who's a professor, had gone to some sort of a conference at Hope, and she came home from it and was just, it was her favorite place in the entire world. And she was like, "You have to come see this college. It's perfect. It's amazing. The cutest little town you're going to love it. And I was like, Mom, don't tell me what to do. I'm 16, you can't be right. But she encouraged me to go to a couple of events at Hope. I went as a junior. I don't remember exactly what event it was for. And then I went to an admitted students day, and had the opportunity to talk to some professors at the time and like get a really good feel for the school. And it just was right. It just felt like the perfect personality fit for me. And I knew that they had a great psychology program, which is where my interests lied, and that I would have the opportunity to be involved in theater and in other clubs and student government, and anything that I wanted to do, I would have the opportunity to do at Hope, which I might not have gotten at a bigger school, which I don't think would have been right for me. And then sort of how that got me to where I am fit right along with that. With Hope being the way that it's set up and the size that it is, I really got to know professors. Both Dr. Whitfleet in the psychology department and Dr. Swanson in the sociology department were unbelievable resources for me. I can remember just sitting in both of their offices, especially my senior year, when I'm like, do I really want to go to law school? It sounds awful. But I think that it's the path for me, and really just hashing it out with both of them and talking about different options. I had the opportunity to do an independent study and some research with Dr. Swanson that I wouldn't have gotten to do otherwise, I think. And then same with the opportunity to go to the Philadelphia Center and really get to know some people, some working attorneys while I was there. I just had all these opportunities to really get close to people that were in a variety of different career paths and positions who really took the time to get to know me and to help walk me through different life decisions. And so then when I got to law school, it was a little bit of culture shock because that didn't still exist. But it encouraged me to kind of seek out that relationship with professors in law school as well. And they were like, once you get past that first 1L year stage, then they were really like, oh, you've made it past your first year, you're probably going to graduate, we'll talk to you now, which obviously was much different from Hope. But again, I sought out a mentor who really helped me hash out, like pull apart, what did I like about my different internships? What did I not like? What am I interested in? What could I live without? That basically walked me into my career that I have now, working for a legal aid law firm, which means that we help low-income folks with a variety of issues related to poverty. So getting them access to public benefits, getting them stable housing, things like that, working with people to pull themselves out of poverty. And those were all kinds of things that I knew that I wanted to do, but I really needed people that worked with me so closely to put them into what is that actually going to look like in a career.
It sounds to me like the logic of this, or the progression of all this, was you have a great job right now, you love what you're doing because of all these great mentors you've had in your life, many of whom are at Hope College. You were at Hope College because mother knows best. Is that kind of the moral of the story? And daughter knew enough to listen, right? Well, we appreciate you sharing that. I want to remind anybody in the audience here to submit questions in the Q&A portal down the bottom. We'll get to those in a few minutes. If you hear noise in the background, I think that's cheering because Stephanie is here with us. We're excited to have her. Stephanie, I want to ask if you can share a little bit about yourself, but let me guide that question a little bit more. Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences at Hope and how that led to you being in the career that you're in now, which has included quite a bit of time in politics?
Yeah. So I actually just went through an interesting kind of major career pivot within the last year. So I worked in a couple of different positions in state and federal government from 2011 until the middle of last year. and had been feeling for a little while like it was time to switch gears a little bit. So I actually just pivoted from the public sector into healthcare. So I can talk a little bit about what that journey kind of looked like. So when I was at Hope, I was trying to decide if I wanted to major in political science or in business. And I took macroeconomics, which was not my favorite class, and should have taken more economics classes, but went to a lecture that was being given as an extra credit opportunity by one of the political science professors, Annie Dandavati. And I was really interested in the topic of the conversation. It was about microcredit lending in the developing world and the role of women in entrepreneurship. And so I actually ended up asking Dr. Dandavati to be my academic advisor and just continued to take more political science classes and really fell in love with the material. And then I did some undergraduate research with Dr. Virginia Beard and really enjoyed just all of the political science classes that I took. I thought the department faculty were really great. When I was a junior, I did the Washington, D.C. Honor Semester program. And through that had an opportunity to intern in Congressman Fred Upton's office. And because of that, I ended up going back to DC in 2011 and 12 and working in his office. And then was feeling like it was time to come back to Michigan. This is really where my roots are. And I saw myself really just kind of staying here long-term in the Midwest. And so ended up starting to work for a state representative at the time who wanted to run for a very competitive state Senate seat in Michigan, Margaret O'Brien. And a few years into that, I was asked to be a part of a Hope College alumni networking panel in Lansing by Dr. Ryden and Dr. Paulette, who were organizing this event. And through that, I met Beth Emmett, who is a former Hope grad. And she was working for the governor at the time, but we had a chance to just get to know each other, and that relationship really blossomed over the next couple of years. In 2017, I had the opportunity to do a healthcare policy fellowship through the University of Michigan, and realized through that experience that I was really interested in healthcare policy out of all of the different issue areas that we were looking at the state level. And so had an opportunity to really think about what that meant for me longer term. And so then I thought about going back to school and started my MBA in August of 2018 at Notre Dame, and ended up then circling back with Beth, and partially because of that relationship, ended up having the opportunity to work as the chief of staff for Joan Budden, the president and CEO of Priority Health, which is the health plan owned by Spectrum in Grand Rapids. And so it was, because I had been a chief of staff before, it kind of allowed me to step into that role, but it was definitely a lot different working in a not-for-profit that in some ways kind of operates like a for-profit. And so, but I think there were a lot of different interesting touch points along the way. I never thought I would be doing what I'm doing now 10 years ago. It certainly wasn't the path that I originally started down, but I think just because of all of those relationships and experiences that I had at Hope, it kind of led to these different specific moments along the way that definitely impacted where I am right now. So I hope that answers the question.
Oh, it sure does. And we appreciate hearing from you. That's a really cool story. I would say that it's advising season right now on campus. And what I love hearing as much as anything from all you guys is how interested you are in different things. And that makes it easy for an advisor to advise you guys. You all have people speak into your lives in some ways because you were interesting people, because you had interest in a lot of different things. And that's shown in your career choices as well. I'm going to go to a question from the audience here. The question is, what is one piece of advice you learned from a professor that has stuck with you after Hope? One piece of advice that you got from a Hope professor that stuck with you after Hope. Amy, lead us off with this one.
I'll speak because I remember very clearly, I had Professor Pocock for a PR class, and it was one of the best classes that I took at Hope in terms of better understanding what kind of career I was going into and what kind of work I'd do. And he worked in the field as well as taught a few classes at Hope. And he just said, network, network, network all the time. Like, and everybody here has mentioned the individuals that have been in their lives that have influenced their career and their pathway. And it's so true that the connections that you have will lead you to your career, and they will keep you going through your career and the next opportunity. The other thing he said that I always remember too is that when you are job searching, you have to act like it's your full-time job. He said, so that means you get up in the morning at 7 a.m., you take a shower, you get ready, you sit down at your computer at 8, and you apply to jobs all day and you work at it. And that was a big thing too, because, you know, jobs don't typically just fall in your lap. You have to work for that as well. And I've carried both of those advices he gave throughout my whole life.
I don't think you're the only student that would identify Professor Pocock as someone that's spoken into their lives. I appreciate you saying that. I'd like to open this question up to others. If you have an answer, we'd love to hear it. Cece, go ahead.
Yeah, so I also have one that immediately just jumps to mind, and that's from Heather Sellers, who I had the privilege of getting in right before she left Hope. And she was a life-changing creative writing professor. And really just the classes that I did with her were like how to live and go through life. And so she would talk about, for writers, you write from like a compost pile of your life experiences, right? So when you're younger, you might not have as much, but it's, you know, it's like that white hot center. But as you're older, you collect more and more experiences and it churns into influencing your work. And so I just remember as an undergrad, thinking I had like this direction and this thing I wanted to do, right? And her just honestly telling me, like, maybe you need to go out and get more scraps. You need to add to your compost pile. You do not need to like do the thing yet. And so that just has really driven my, you know, what I did next. I immediately said, okay, I'm not going to do grad school next. I'm going to get out in the real world. I'm going to like hear more stories and diversify my life experience. I need that in my life. And so that has really comforted me in times that are disappointing or not very glamorous, because we're just adding scraps to the compost pile. And that it has really just been one of the best pieces of advice I've received.
It's definitely a good one, right? The add to your scrap heap. That's cool. Jordan, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a story from when Stephanie and I were on the DC semester together. This isn't from a professor, but I was working at the DC office of the Attorney General, and one of my classmates was really stressed out. We were writing our senior seminar paper at the time, and he was visibly stressed. And so the attorney that he was working for went and bought him a cookie with a smiley face on it, and he gave it to him. And he said, hey, you get to choose whether you're happy or not. And I don't know if the lesson from that is cookies make you happy, or that, you know, joy really is a decision that we all get to make. But probably joy, actually.
How cool. How cool. Thanks for sharing that. Anybody else on this question? Go ahead, Eric.
And this also kind of relates back to a gen ed requirement too. So I believe it was my second cultural heritage. I had Dr. Jonathan Haygood. And even though, so the class, I believe, was nursing and allied health history. And even though it was history in my major, it still provided a different perspective on things. And he, because I was in that major, kind of changed the requirements of the course a bit different for me. And so him and I met weekly. And he's one of the driving forces for why I decided to go and get a PhD, because he really talked about never really being complacent, asking questions and being inquisitive in everything we do. And that kind of instilled in me to think what's beyond just the general care that I would provide as a registered nurse, and made me want to provide a larger global impact on a wider population of patients and people than the people that I was just directly providing care for in my general practice. So he was one of the driving forces in me going on to get a PhD and asking larger questions than what was in front of me. And so, yeah, I was extremely thankful that I was able to to take his course, and I know he's no longer with us, but he was definitely, I know, had a big impact on a lot of students and people that came in contact with him through Hope.
He sure did, and thanks for sharing that. He absolutely did. Megan, I want to ask you this question. You were at Hope, you were away for a bit, now you're back. Talk to us about the differences between Hope College for you as a student and Hope College for you now as a faculty member.
I think just like a lighthearted example to get started is the idea of parking in the faculty parking lot behind the Science Center. The first 2 weeks was so weird. I felt so out of place. That was probably the biggest difference. But now things they feel very normal. So I think more, I don't know, I guess in more seriousness, like it's both the same, but also totally different. You know, it's like back as a professor, it feels like I almost was like never a student here, which is like not like, I don't mean like I was never a student here. I just mean like it's like a totally different world, right? Like you coming in as a student and like, you know, young and new at life, and I've got all these things to learn, and I did sailing and joined a research group, and then I went out to grad school and had all these other like life experiences. I lived in Texas for 5 years and then Philadelphia for 2 years, and so now coming back here, I just try to, like, moving forward, take all of the wisdom, not only that like I've picked up along the way, but that my mentors continue to pour into me, and I just want to pour it into my students so they can, I guess, like learn and grow as they get started in life.
Love that answer. That's great. Thank you. Stephanie, what do you miss about Hope, if anything?
I would certainly say I miss Hope. I had a wonderful experience there. I think probably everyone would say this, the people. I really do. I miss getting to regularly see friends, faculty, other leaders at the college, other mentors, other community members. I've been really grateful to stay in good contact with a number of different people who influenced my life in many ways at Hope. And in fact, some of them I'm going to be talking to later tonight. And I think that because of Hope's commitment both to academic excellence and the Christian tradition, I think it fosters this environment of true collaboration and really meaningful relationships. And so I think, you know, there were, of course, certain spots on campus that I really enjoyed. I always really liked going to Dimnit Chapel and you know, the Kletz. You know, there were certain places that I always really enjoyed, but certainly I remember so many different conversations that I had that really impacted my thought process about a number of different topics. I had some great conversations with Dr. Tyler in the religion department. He was so gracious with letting me come and talk to him on a regular basis. And Dr. Paulette, I don't know how many people in this group had him, but he's one of the most intelligent people I've ever met and always asks really tough and good questions. So I think that's really what I miss the most, and just having the opportunity in that kind of a setting to just learn and grow and explore. You know, I think it's just such a cool opportunity to figure out what it is you're really passionate about and what you love doing. And so I think just having that opportunity to learn about the world in a really safe environment is what I miss the most.
Thanks for sharing that. You might be sad to know that the old Kletz is actually a classroom right now. So while there are still conversations going on there, they're probably of a different nature. Yeah, go ahead, Megan.
It's my classroom. I'm teaching gen chemistry in it.
Yes, I love that. Yes. So there are great conversations going on right now down there. That's terrific. Oh, thanks for sharing. So Stephanie, there were a lot of head nods when you mentioned the people, and I think everyone resonates with that. But I wonder if there's maybe some more specifics. Annalise, more specifics about what you missed from Hope College?
What do I miss? Yeah, I mean, I can just kind of like tell one, it's a different question, but I'm going to use it to answer this one. Sorry, Chad. So there was one about like study spots, right? And it just took me back to freshman year. I was in Voorhees. I was then an RA in Voorhees. So hi, Allison, I see you there. And that was our group, like 4 years. And several of you guys are on here, so thank you for taking time to do that. But freshman year, we had Kappa, So like this online chemistry homework assignment we had to do. And we would be in Jerry in our nose room on the 3rd floor of Voorhees, like it's due at midnight. There'd be like 30 of us packed in this tiny like closet of a room, and then like both layers of the bunk, and then all the way through the hallways. And we're just screaming for Jerry. Jerry was our one friend who like would finish Kappa ahead of time, and he would come and help each one of us. And that was just like, it became a tradition. And those are still some of my really close friends. We went through a lot of things in those 4 years and beyond. So I miss those people, and those, you know, you're doing life together in every sense of the word. And you don't get that after college, right? So yeah, that's what I miss.
I appreciate you sharing that, Cece. And I think we've learned that moderators of discussions, of big discussions, can be answered or not. It's really up to the respondents, right? That seems to be a trend in this country over the last couple of weeks. I thank you for sharing that answer. I have another question from the audience, and that question is this: how would you advise current students to prepare for leaving the hope bubble? And I believe the term hope bubble means more than just a COVID bubble, the hope bubble that has existed maybe for a long time. How would you advise current students to prepare for leaving the hope bubble? Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting question, but a good one. I think study abroad, or I think everyone here, some people have mentioned doing a DC semester, or I don't know what other places that you can go, or a May term. I did 4 months in Australia, kind of getting out to kind of prepare me for something a little bit different. So taking advantage of those opportunities, I don't know if they're co-curricular, extracurricular, whatever you want to call them, to branch yourself out and learn a little more about yourself. You know, when no one in my friends went to Australia, it was just me. You know, went out there and got to learn a lot about myself in a different place. I think it's a good place to start, and get outside of Holland as well too. A little bit harder to do, but I think starting with the program that Hope has in place to allow you to learn how to get outside that bubble is a good place to go.
Thanks, Peter. How about others responding to that question? How do you advise current students? Charlene.
I totally agree with Peter. I went to Philadelphia. I know a lot of people went to Chicago as well. You just have to leave the hope bubble and take some time, even if that just means getting an internship or an externship with a business in Holland. I did that as well. I think a real way to identify the hope bubble is to try to explain the pull or NYCIRC to somebody who's not familiar with Hope College, and just watch their eyes grow like this. And then you'll start to realize that there's, you know, some things that are very unique to Hope and very special about Hope. But you can get kind of hemmed in if you only interact with other people from Hope who share a lot of the same values, a lot of the same background and experiences. So the more opportunities you can take to bring hope to other places, the more you will grow, and the more you can foster growth in other people, I think, too.
Thanks for that answer, Charlene. Luis, anything to add? You're nodding here. I love that.
Yeah, no, I just, you know, I definitely echo with what Peter and Charlene said. I think that is really important, right? To just leave for a little bit and put yourself in places where you're not comfortable. Being comfortable, I don't know if you guys can hear, there's a helicopter going, that's what that is anyways. It's important to do that. It's important to do that. And, you know, I think that when you become really comfortable in the environment you're in, it's time to change. Time to change. The world is really small, and there's so many different people to get to know. And there's so many different things that you can learn about yourself if you just take that step outside of your bubble.
Thanks for saying that. You've done that. That's great. Yeah. Megan, what do you think?
I was just going to add on, if for some reason, like you're a current student and you're unable to step out of the hope bubble for, I don't know, a myriad of reasons, one thing you can do while you're here is to start practicing being proactive in every sense of the word, like in your activities and your relationships. And if you're not sure what that means, you know, talk to your professors, mentors, just be proactive, because eventually you will leave Hope, and it can be a tough world out there. And so just taking those steps now to build good habits will help you when you have to leave the bubble.
Great advice there. Luis, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Megan, I'm really glad that you said that, because it reminded me, and it's actually one of my biggest regrets. So I'll go back and answer that question. And I don't know if this will help whoever's in the audience, but you can do that on campus. That's something I wish I would have done more. I wish I would have been more comfortable inserting myself in places where maybe people didn't look like me or people had different backgrounds than me. I wish I would have done that more on campus, because every single person has their differences and may appear to be different, but at the end of the day, we're all Hope students, right? We've got at least that in common. And you'd be really surprised to see what else you have in common if you just ask the question and start to meet people even on campus.
It's a great answer. Thanks for adding that, Luis. Appreciate it. We got one more question from the audience. We'll have this one be our final question. How has your faith journey affected or been important to your career since you left Hope College? How has your faith journey affected or been important to your career since you left Hope College? Stephanie, go ahead.
I can start on this one. I think that the impetus really for me in terms of eventually pursuing kind of politics or working in government at the beginning of my career really was kind of a commitment to public service and understanding the weight of government officials, the importance of the decisions that they make, the responsibility they have to do the best job that they can to represent their constituencies and use taxpayer money wisely and make decisions that they really do think are in the best interests of the people who are relying on them to be open-minded and fair. And I think actually the current political climate and kind of that challenge in having respectful discourse with people who have a diverse set of opinions, I think was a reason why I was interested in kind of changing my focus professionally, which is really unfortunate. And I hope that we can get to a place of being able to have more, I think, responsible dialogue on really tough issues. I think now working for a not-for-profit health system, we're getting at the heart of what's really important to so many people, their health. It's hard to kind of think about something that has a more tangible and direct impact on someone's life than their health. And so I think having the ability again to be in an environment where we're making important decisions about how we can provide the best possible care to patients that might have, you know, really complex conditions is definitely, I think, again, another responsibility that is really important. And so I think, yeah, my faith journey has certainly been intertwined with that professional journey as well.
Sounds like some of the decisions that you've made recently speak to some of the questions that you all have been asking yourselves, the continual questions about whether you're doing what you should be doing and if this is important enough to continue to pursue or not. And I wonder if Jordan, you can speak to this answer as well, knowing that you've asked these questions and they've been faith-based questions, and that's led you on a path.
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, my question has always kind of been for myself, like how does God want me to use my gifts to serve others? And I think, I mean, this panel answers that question. Everybody answers it in a different way, which is amazing. And it's so cool to see how God's gifted us all differently. But I think just keep asking the question and know that faith is a journey too that we're all on. And so we go through different periods of that, where we're part of different churches, or we're at high points and we're at low points, and giving yourself grace to know that that's okay, that it is a journey, I think is really important.
Yeah, go ahead, Cece.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone's saying. And I want to just kind of highlight, as a teacher and being in the classroom, I've just really seen that's where my faith can be put into practice, and it's tested and stretched the most, and practicing grace and showing up every day. And I in looking back, my professors model that for me so much, in the amount of time that they took to invest in me, not just academically, but serving communion at the gathering. And, you know, if you guys see Dr. Johnson on here, like, I would watch his kids and like got to shadow his wife, who's a physician, and like they just pour into us as humans and in our development and in that unique point we are at as college students, with just so many different potential ways that we could go after. And that has really influenced the way I then turn and serve and live out my faith in who I'm working with my students. A lot of them would be the first in their family to go to college, or who have never been told that their culture contributes to science, right, and technology in a new and interesting way. And so I think that's what fuels the way I live out my faith each day post Hope. But it was that nurturing environment there, getting to see it firsthand from professors.
Well, on behalf of the faculty and staff members at Hope College, we are so proud of you guys. And on behalf of the students, many of whom are here today, you guys are an inspiration. And we hope that you'll continue to inspire. We hope you'll continue to ask those big questions that you have so far. Kate, I'd like to ask you to come back here and close us up with some announcements. Before Kate begins that, though, I would like to say thanks so much to everybody that's here today. Thanks to our panelists. We're so proud of you guys. Thanks to the audience for being here, for asking great questions. And we hope that you leave today feeling really good about a lot of people that have graduated from Hope College, and feeling really good about Hope College and what we can do to impact people's lives.
Thank you, Chad, and thank you so much for your moderating. I have said it before, and I'll say it again. I'm never going to not ask you to do this. So you're going to be doing this year after year. Thank you so much to our recipients. We're so excited to have had you, and the words of wisdom that you've shared has been incredible. We're excited to welcome the recipients back, to actually celebrate them, to make them do a little less work at the 10 Under 10 Soiree virtual award ceremony, which is tonight. It'll also be streaming to Facebook Live on the Hope College Alumni Association page. So if you would like to see these folks and see their memories and see their tributes, we'd love to have you back for that this evening at 7 o'clock. If you have anyone that you think would be a fantastic 10 Under 10 award recipient in the future, hope.edu/alumni/awards. You can do a really quick nomination, and we'd love to have more and more people to add to this list, because these folks already used up. So we need more people for next year. So thank you again to everyone, and hopefully we'll see you tonight.